All right, greetings. I'm sorry about that. Greetings, everyone. We're getting ready to get started again this week. And last week we left off how to talk to the IRS. So I'll be going right into that information today of how you're supposed to talk to the IRS. So you can do all these processes, you can do all these steps. You can have everything you have in order and it could be perfect. But if you aren't able to talk to the IRS, that will probably be the hardest downfall that you'll deal with, because if you can't talk to them, or you can't, you know, we'll say, even if it's in person. So we're going to go through two parts. You can either one works. You'll be dealing with talking over the phone as well as talking in person. So we'll be talking about that later on in our session and our meat of our discussion, and strategies and exact processes of how you're supposed to do this. But I'll be quizzing you all today to kind of understand where your mind is, because I know a lot of us have been taken over with the 1099 process, which we understand people are trying to do the 1099 process, which is the 1099A, the 1099B, and the beneficial interest B that everybody's looking to do. So we're not here to say that it's not going to work for you, but we want to make sure that you understand all layers of everything so that you don't get caught off guard when it comes to doing certain basic steps, which I'll say today is one of the most important basic steps is talking to the IRS. And like I say, this is something way after somebody may say, well, I've done all these steps. Well, this is something very important for you to know what to say, what to do. You're not fighting them either. So some people say, well, look, they didn't do this for me. I'm going to sue them. I'm going to do this. This will not work out for you. We will not likely win, which we're going to learn how a lot of people have failed when it came to getting in communication with the Internal Revenue Service. Now we're going to break this word down, which everybody just calls the IRS. Realistically, they're called the Internal Revenue Service, which means they work on the inside. So what the inside means is everything that you got going on inside is what they see and what they know. The they is the people who work at the offices that the government says, these are the regulations, the rules that you must go by when you're at this office. So when people say the they, we actually can identify who those they are, and we are able to talk to them by practice. So you have to practice this. This isn't something that you want to just jump into and think that is going to just automatically work for you if you're not able to get to the last part, which we're understanding now is to talk. So I'll be getting into that detail, in a way to kind of make it easily understood. But I do know that a lot of us are still focusing on the taxes, which is the 1099s, right? So we know a lot of people are still stuck on the taxes. Now, we simplified it for everyone to make it so easy that you can't lose. Now, if you can't use the software, then that's fine. Just use the regular paper route and mail it in, right? If you don't understand how to use the software. So we're not going to complicate it for anyone and say, hey, it's required for you to do it this way. So if you don't know how to do it and it's difficult to use that software, then just by all means, just use the regular paper route. Certify mail it to the Treasury. They will get it. But we don't sit all day on taxes. Taxes is maybe 15% of the trust. We don't think about taxes as being the biggest part. So I'm going to break that down to with your revocable living trust, is how that is just a small section of your trust. That is not the end all be all of your trust, which we're going to get into. So like I say, I'll open up with myself. I'm one of the instructors here. I work at University Technicians. I am not University Technicians by myself, but if people approach it that way, that's fine. There's over 15 people that work with University Technicians. I am one of the instructors. So that means that we have a vast network that we're looking to build with everybody here. So that means if you want to be part of the network, feel free to reach out to us to build your business. Because at the end of the day, if you have an EIN or a trust, all that stuff is a business. So if you think it's not a business and you're just holding on to forms, holding on to documents, we're here to prove to you today that this is you and you handling your business, which we say, a lot of people say you need to handle your business. They used to cliche statement. They used to throw these words out in the street, say, we'll handle your business. But this is the ultimate way you handle your business right here. And, I'm talking this way because I'm very confident, because I've been working on this stuff for over 7 years. So I'm not a new guy to this information. I've been working this game for about 7 years. I've made multiple mistakes. I've made failures. I've been in situations thinking I can win in court and I lost. So this court thing isn't a place that you want to get all into acting like you're so big and bad, right? With this trust. So we want to make sure everybody back down from that mindset too when you start dealing with court. You want to go into court respectfully and humbly as possible. Don't go in there with these boastful attitudes that they teach you in these other groups and gurus telling you to do this and do that and they must do this. And if they don't do that and all that stuff, that is going to get you nowhere. Just kind of helping you all understand this. This is the trust rod. This is the trust realm, and we don't like to think about stuff in a complicated, controversial way when you're dealing with a trust or an estate. Now, if you want to get into the complicated stuff, you can go over to the corporation side, which I'm going to go over today and show and prove how that's the corporation side when you have a whole bunch of controversies going on, when you're dealing with a whole bunch of debts, when you're dealing with a whole bunch of bills, when you're dealing with a whole bunch of expenses and all that stuff. That's the corporation side. So we're not here to help you focus on the corporation side. We're here to help you focus on the trust side. So we don't break down a whole bunch of corporate knowledge on purpose because I don't get into corporate understanding. We're here to teach you the non-corporate side, the non-commercial side, right? So we're going to show all this information today, and I'm going to make sure that everybody is able to give their comments, questions, and shares. And I'm going to go to our first diagram, but I'm then going to open up for Q&A session in just about maybe 5 to 7 minutes. Let me get to our first diagram first. All right, here we go. Here's our first diagram. So for all our people who are studying this knowledge and you came in through us, you should already know where all the money's coming from. So if you don't know all your money is coming from here, then you all are not on the trust side fully yet. You're not fully understanding trust. So how many today want to admit that you didn't know that all the money came from here? Anybody knew this answer before today? Did you know that all the money came from this location? Who did not know? Don't be ashamed. It took me a while to figure this stuff out. All right, so we got Mindy. Anybody else did not know where all the money came from? Okay, good. So we got some people from watching the video. That's fine. So before we got to these points, we want to make sure we are able to pick the brain of even the government. So when you all talk to these government offices and these officers and these people that work there, pick their brain. Ask them, do you know where all this money coming from? Where all your money coming from? So we're gonna prove to you today that the money is not coming from the bank. If anything, if anybody today thought all the money was coming from the bank, how did you what made us think that all the money came from the bank? Who taught us that all the money came from the bank? Anybody remember where this came from? Right? So if you were taught that the money came from the bank, then they lied. They lied to you. They told you a lie because the money never came from the bank. Somebody said school. No, they didn't teach you anything about money in school. Only thing they did, I remember when I was in elementary school, they used to have the cents, the dime, and the nickel and the quarters. But in high school, it seemed like we didn't even talk about money. It's so crazy. Like it just jumped over and there was no more money talks. So I don't think we learned that even in school, that the money came from the bank. It seemed like when we got home, that's when we learned about the bank for some reason. Like everybody at the house, even in the streets, everybody in the streets knew about the bank. And I'm like, man, how did y'all get this knowledge? I don't know nothing about this stuff. So we want to kind of pick our brains to see where do we get this information from? Who taught you this information? And why are you holding on to it so long if you know it's not the truth? Right. So your goal is to get out of the banking system, not stay in it. Right. So we got people that get into this process and you get right back into the banking system. We don't want you to do that. We want you to come out and stay out. and you want to control the banking system at the point when you learn how to become a bank. So you're learning how to become a bank, a banker, and a broker. That's why we teach that in our private banking courses. We show you how to do this, and you make sure you know where all the money comes from and how to utilize the money. So right here, the highest bill that we got in this system is this right here, the $100 bill. Now, some of us are still stuck on not understanding bills, but I'm proving to you today that these are bills. You thought these were something else. These are bills. That's right. So these are your bills right here. The $100 bill, uh, $50 bill, $20 bill, $10 bill, $5 bill, a dollar bill, right? They told you the truth, but they lied at the last part. They gave you the truth in the beginning, and then towards the end, they started to lie. Whoever we got our knowledge from, whoever we got our information from about money. All right. So I'm proving to you that this is where you grab all your money, and you can do this right now. You can do this today. It's just a rehearsal for those who have already understood this and you know this. That's fine, but we're going to make sure you put it to practice. Right? Do you actually have the money that you grabbed from here yet? Did you actually try to order the money? Because that's what the bank is going to do. The bank is the place that you all are telling to order the money for you. All right. So I'm going before the bank and how to show you how before the bank came, you were the bank. And as time went on, we just said, you know what? I don't feel like going through all that. Let me just go to this location. They say they do all this work for me. All I got to do is use my ATM card. I grab this cash and I'm good. You know, my money. All right. So we're going to show you how this is the main way you're supposed to get your money. Look, they got to verify I'm a human. You know, so that's how you know it's the real deal. They verifying you a human, making sure you're not an AI, and so on. Look at this. Okay, now I'm in the system. I can sign up for their email list and I can get access to some money. Now, here we go. United States Mint. As you can see, this is an official website of the United States government. I'm not going to go to a place that is telling me knowledge or a corporation or a guru. I'm going to go to the official website of the government first. And then I'm going to get more information from other sources as well. All right, so this is your original source of where it all came from. As you can see, the new dollar bills are out. Look at that. They got the new 5-note sheet out right now. You know, so they got some new money. That's what they call this, new money. Next, you got your $2 bills. As you all know, $2 bills ain't really circulating out there, but you can grab some $2 bills if you choose to do this for your banking system. Look at your $2 note sheet. You can go in to get your $5 bills. $5 to $50, you know, $50 on the same note sheet right here for $5. Let's keep going. Let me jump down to y'all main bills that y'all used to. Y'all used to see. Look at that, $10 bills. Look at this, $10 bills. As you can see, you can grab the whole sheet of the $10 bills right here. Next, we got some more reserve notes, some bills that we always not realize and focus on. Let's go. That's 20 and 20 products. So let's go to our next denomination. Let me see if they got a better denominator. Look at that. Here we go. Let's go to the $100 bills. Let's jump right to it. Let's see what they got for these $100 bills. Okay, that's not popping up here. Product solution, that's there. Price 100. So they may not even have the 100 to 250 yet. What they producing at Fort Knox or Washington D.C. or both of them? Let's see both. Oh, there's no new $100 bills I can buy right now. At least, or unless I'm messing up the filter. Let me see if I'm messing it up. They say $5 bills. They don't let you buy the $100 right now. At least I did before. Oh, here we go. It's probably something I'm doing wrong. But you all get the point. The whole point is this is where you're supposed to be buying the money or getting the money. We're going to say this is where you're supposed to be getting the money. Like they always tell us, you know, look at your coin program. You can grab your coins. We talked about this before, how you can get access to these coins and how these coins are worth whatever amount they say they are. You know, if it's gold or if it's silver. All right, so I'll be closing out on this part just to kind of give you all some ideas of where you'll see the gold coming from, the coins, all these different things right here that they're going to be using as they call money. And you can turn these things in, and when you turn them in, they turn into what they call something called liquidity. You can liquidate those, so they're able to liquidate a lot faster because it's coming from the official coinage of the United States, the way they have it designed right here. So I'll segue from this point right here to kind of get us an idea of where we are going to start at once you're dealing with a trust and you're dealing with an estate. You're going to stay on the trust side as much as possible. You want to make sure you're dealing with trust law as much as possible, right? So we want to make sure everyone is communicating with the corporation, you're communicating with the government in a way that you know that you're doing this as a which we'll say unincorporated or non-commercial, or what's the last one we use? Yeah, those are the two ways. So outside of that, we're on the time now. We're going to open up for comments, questions, and shares. You can go forward and ask your questions about dealing with the money, the banking system, and the credit, as well as getting through a few tax issues. So if anybody had any questions or anything so far, I'm going to yield from the mic for now and allow you all to go in with your questions. Thanks. All right, no one has any questions so far. So just to kind of give you some ideas of certain questions you can ask or you can bring out. For instance, somebody asked about court issues. So I'll read this question that kind of came into the chat for a second. It says, speaking on court issues, many moons ago, a bankruptcy EIN was acquired for traffic citations, at which the time it didn't know how to file the 1041 form for the case. IRS mentioned due to the information that was provided, which was the court case number. All right, so somebody came in speaking of filing the court case, filing the court case. All right, so if this is the way, this is the method of the court case. The courts are banks. All right, so we learned this in our classes from the past. The courts are banks. The banks are courts. That's the first step. So once we know this, every single time you go or deal with the court, it's always a financial situation the entire time. So when we go in there saying we don't have no money or we're not going to pay, this is creating a controversy. This is creating a controversy. So that's why in court, almost everyone goes in with an argument. All right. So any comments on why that's not the way to go first if you're going to the court? Go ahead. Okay, we got 100 eyes like your mic. Feel free to unmute your mic, mute your mic, or there we go.
Oh, I apologize. That was a mistake.
Or no problem, no problem.
I let my
No
plane. I
worries.
apologize.
No worries, no worries, no worries. So I just want to make sure that was the layer of knowing about court. So for those who are new to dealing with court on the trust side, the way we deal with court is you're going in to pay off all of the debts, pay off all of the charges, all of the expenses. Now, does this keep you out of jail? We can't guarantee that. As long as you ain't hurt nobody and you ain't damaged a lot of property. This is a possibility you could face still jail time. So we're not here to give people unrealistic claims that, hey, I have a trust, I can do anything in the world. I'm on a new do not detain list and I'm out here, right? And I can just do whatever I want. That is something that we can't guarantee to you at all, right? So if you did some stuff, if you damaged some property, if you injured some people, it's a possibility, even though you paid all your charges off, you did all your stuff, you could still end up in jail. So we want to make sure that this is realistic to people because sometimes people get out out in this world of trust, and they think they can just go AWOL. Trust is about trust. Trust is about being honest and just and truthful and telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth, right? They say these are the things that you're doing when you're in a trust. So when you go to the court, there's nothing wrong with you going in telling the truth because that's all you're going to do. You're just going to tell them the truth. That is our point. So our issue with court is most of the time we're going in saying, I don't have no money and I'm not going to pay you. That's the first mistake. We all have failed if we started the courthouse like that because the courthouse is a bank. It's a financial location every time you go up in that location. That's why they got the cashier person downstairs when you keep walking straight to the court. You pay your payments or you go file your documents. All right, so a lot of us are new to this. That's why they didn't teach you this in school. They're not going to teach you this. That's our issue. We got to stop saying they got to teach us this. They got to teach us this. How many years are going to go by before these people decide to teach us this stuff? They're not going to teach us. Every time you go to that courthouse, they're going to say, I cannot give you any legal advice. Very interesting how this stuff goes. So I just want to make sure dealing with court, we know that court is a bank. First step, it's not just a location that you grab, some documents and you sitting before a judge, all this stuff. So I want to bring that into the clarity of the taxes. The taxes can be filed on the case once you understand it's a financial transaction. And that's where we get into taxes next. So I hope that helps with anybody that's new to this knowledge. If you're in the trust realm, your goal is not to act like you're gonna buck the bill, right? You're gonna buck them. You can't buck these people out here because if you gotta trust, you're supposed to be trusted. You gotta be honorable. You gotta actually pay these bills off. That's what we're hoping that everybody is learning how to do. So let's get into another diagram. As you all saw earlier, we talked about how you're supposed to get all your money from the US Mint.gov or BEP, as we say, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. This is your cash. This is your money, right? So for those who thought you were getting your money from the bank, you're not getting your money. You're not getting your money. You're not getting your money from the bank. We got to say it 3 times because if you don't understand it, you're going to keep thinking it tomorrow. You're going to wake up and say, hey, I heard what Brother Wallace said. You know what? I don't care what he's talking about. I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to realize that this is where I'm getting my money. And it's not true. So this is the first lie they told you is that your money was coming from the bank. Right? They told you the truth, but then they lied at the end. And when you went to the Federal Reserve to get all of your money, this is the banking system. So we don't talk about you staying in the Federal Reserve banking system. The goal is for you to come out of the Federal Reserve banking system. All right, so let's go to our next diagram. Just for those who wanted to get any questions, thoughts, or shares, we got to make sure that we fully understand this is your beginning part of dealing with their corporation and even talking to, which I can't even get to yet because you all haven't even got a chance to talk to the IRS. So I yield for a moment. I see a hand raised.
I was saying, part of the reason the money does not come from the bank, and I'm asking, is because we open a bank account, we pay to deposit that money, and then we allow our money to go in there. So they never gave us anything, correct?
Well, that's correct because your Social Security account is receiving the funds, right? How are they getting the money there if you don't have a Social Security account, right? It's elementary, y'all. We learned it in elementary school, but by the time they got us to high school, we for some reason stopped talking about money. It's interesting. And you all can remember this because I just gave y'all my testimonial. Like I didn't know anything about no bank when I was in school, but when I got out in these streets or I got home, all of a sudden I'm learning about banks. I'm learning about writing a check and hey man, you need to go get some credit. You gotta get a credit card, all this stuff, right? Why are we learning this so on the fly? This doesn't make any sense, especially this banking system stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there for those who are new to this. And it don't matter how many years we've been doing this. I don't care how long you've been. You could be 89 years old. It has no problem. No problem. You could be 89, you could be whatever. The facts are it's the same answers. The bank never gave you no money. All right. So like you said, brother Raven, we got to fully realize this, because if we believe that it's a bank, then that is the first thing that we're still in. We got to get out of that system, which is why we're talking about this way. And I yield. All right. So if there's no thoughts, comments, or shares on how the first step is to get out of the banking system, any thoughts, questions, or shares about this? Because we're not even talking to the IRS yet. We're still learning how to deal with talking to the IRS, which I can't get to. That'll be the meat of our discussion. By the time you get to the internal, which they're going to say this is part of your internal revenue, which is inside. This is you. This is an inside thing. This has nothing to do with people out there. When you talk to them and they talk to you, this is all about you. So we want to make sure this is fully understood of how you all got to come out of the banking system first by the time you get to these people. So let me get to this next diagram if there's no thoughts, comments, or share.
So you're saying you're you're saying we should be out of the banking system before even communicating with them. Based off the last
Right. Your mind, I'm going to say it this way.
statement.
Your mind should be out of the banking system before communicating with them. I'm going to say it that way. Because if we are still thinking of the Federal Reserve, which I just said, we said the money, where we learned the truth, the money is coming from here. Right. So we can't be led astray that the money, I can't get the money, right? They say, go get your money. I can go grab the money here. Right. So what is the bank doing? When I ask the bank to do something, they are going where to get my money? Anybody want to answer that question? And we got Freeway had a hand
The
up.
Fed wire window. Hi, y'all.
No, absolutely incorrect.
They not going to the Fed wire window?
No,
Where they going?
U.S. Treasury.
no. Oh, y'all are just y'all. Let me go back.
Federal Reserve
I
Bank.
just came in. That's why I'm asking, because I know that they do that
Okay. What? All right,
that
let's go.
circular 10
Anybody?
too. I
Well,
think it's a
who?
Federal
circular
Reserve
10.
Bank.
No.
I would like
You
to
all.
buy a vowel. I
All
would like
right.
to buy a vowel.
Okay, we got brother Flow Focus. Let you go ahead and go in and give a recap of where the money's coming from, brother Flow Focus.
I just want to try to, make sure that my understanding is proper here because I've been coming to this little bit of understanding or like orientation, I guess you will. Like what you're saying is get your mind out of the banking system as if they're holding on to something that belongs to you, when in reality they're just like using your funds to recoup their like operations. So it's not necessarily whatever money's in there. I'm not necessarily saying this. I'm like asking the same way the brother was saying. I'm gonna say this, but I'm really asking, right? So they just holding on to something for you based on what you're trying to transact with. I'm thinking in my mind, right, when I was coming to these terms recently, I was saying, okay, maybe the banks are like an intermediary just to translate the value into coins, into things that we can use, credits into into currency or whatever. That's like my understanding of what the bank is actually doing. So we have to somehow take care of our own. This is why I'm looking at it. Take care of our own records, like our own administration. Like you're what you're saying. You're going in there kind of asking and like thinking that they're supposed to do things, but in reality, what you're doing is you're going and letting them know because they're standing there saying what you got. What do you got that then I can, because what you said, internal revenue, this is stuff that since they're external to us, we got to report to them what's going on inside of us. So trust separated from them. They don't see what's inside. So we got to let them know what's going on inside of our trust based on whatever dynamics of business we're doing. And then, like, because here's where I start to look at it a little, here's where I start to disconnect, right? Like, we were talking about this sometime years ago. Wake up in the morning, brush your teeth, wash your face. You could put that kind of stuff down on paper saying you just, were doing maintenance on, your household or whatever. Wash your windows, clean your car, drive to the store, pick up groceries, all of these things keep of your household. Then your neighbor needs, they walkway shoveled. So you say, okay, cool, I'll go help them out. Again, you just write this down on ways that you're keeping up with your community. If you want to tell your friend to recoup with me, all you're doing is just saying we're exchanging value, put it on paper. But again, we then take all that and report it to the IRS, in my understanding, in the way I'm following, so that now the IRS through the bank can make the translation and we'll get the return on our time, energy, and effort investment. Again, asking, not telling.
Well, no, you're reasoning. That's a good reason. And then we got Freeway. He had his hand
Okay.
up. I'm gonna let Freeway get his answer in. But the short answer is you're not getting your money from the bank. You are not getting your money from the bank. The bank is not the place you are getting your money from. All your money is coming from this location called the Bureau of Engraving and Printing.
And I was about to say I spoke fast because I didn't listen to you said money. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Money. You're right. Money. I was thinking of the credit and all of that stuff. You're right. The money. Okay, I got you. I answered you fast. I answered you
No,
fast.
it's all right. You said you just came in. I'm not.
I
I'm not.
did.
I'm
I
not. I'm
did.
not saying anything that you said wrong or anybody else that came in or anybody's. Well, I just want to make
No, I
sure.
was just catching myself like, oh, I spoke too fast. Like I was supposed to listen to that question again. Cause yes, you're right. I wrote them before.
There you go. So this is where we get into the position of where we're banking now. And let's say you wanted to shop and grab you some money, right? You can. You can grab you some money. And you don't have to go to the bank like Bank of America or Chase Bank or so on. So we're gonna go to your next diagram if nobody else. Well, no, I'm sorry. We had Freeway. Freeway Mechanics was had his hand up. Let's get his hand in. And then we'll let somebody else, if somebody else had their hand up.
Nope, I'm good. I put my hand down.
All right, you sure? I mean, you can go ahead and get that thought in, and I'm going to go to our next diagram of where you can also deal with your money without the banking system. All right, so let's go. Your next diagram I have here is called Treasury Direct. Now, a lot of us may not understand what to do with this location, but this is a very important spot because it shows you how to live without the banking system as well, where you can use your Treasury Direct 100% the entire time. You can get your what they call your Treasury returns, or which they call the tax returns. I'm sorry, they don't say Treasury returns. Your tax returns can be directed to your Treasury Direct. So that is another layer that some of us may be new to. We may not understand it, but you also can get into all these other things that we don't know about. They say a lot of different countries, people come over from different countries, foreigners, they understand this website in and out. And they understand this a lot right here, like treasury bonds, right? So some of us don't understand this, but we weren't taught. So a lot of people understand it because they were taught when they were young. They understand how to do it. As you see the minimum purchase, you use that $100 bill. And with that $100 bill, look what it does. It turns into this type of bond, which we're going to learn more about how they're able to even get their QSIPs, as they say QSIPs. These are where they're getting their QSIPs. All their QSIPs have to go through the Internal Revenue Service system, which is the Treasury, right? So we're going to learn what they're doing and how they're getting away with fully getting through everything because they are not using the banking system, right? So by the time we get to the banking system, we're dealing with them all the time, 100%, when they have the banking system and they also have this non-banking system as well. This is what I'm trying to get us to with the trust side. So the trust law still applies. Even if you have a revocable living trust, you still have to manage the other side, which is your revocable trust side. Even if you get the funds with your sole proprietor, even if you have all the funds in your social, you still have to manage the EIN, right? So a lot of us are still trying to deal with this. I'm learning it myself. I didn't always have it together, and I'm still getting it together. But I'm just showing and presenting this to show this way because some of us have to make sure that we understand Treasury Direct also exists. And you need to have a login. You need to be able to log into this system and be able to utilize this system as well. So is anybody familiar with this? Any thoughts, questions, or shares so far about utilizing the Treasury Direct? This is our next diagram to show how you can use systems that are outside of the bank.
I'm familiar with it, and I remember I made an account last year, and I accidentally forgot my login information. And they're on my call, they were asking me to fill out a form. I don't remember the exact form. I had to mail it out. It's a very um strict, and also like security is very tight. They got to make sure that they know it's you, all you truly say that you are. So I'm familiar with this.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So that's a good thing that you mentioned that because you do have to keep this login active. They will see that if you're inactive in this account, you will have to restore that account again if you at any point became inactive with this account because it happened to me. So you're absolutely right. And I know exactly what you mean. So will anybody else have any thoughts or questions about Treasury Direct? Because this is a another layer that I'll get into of how you're able to utilize your banking system. Okay, so I'll go into another part of the Treasury Direct to show some of this information. And I'll help you all with a new thing, which is open a new account, but I won't stay on this too long. Got to make sure you understand how to do this in real time. So you do this online. All you need to use is the EIN. So if you use the EIN, you have the trust, it's faster. If you use the SSN, they're going to scrutinize you. You are going to have to turn in documentation to prove, like the brother said earlier, who you are. But if you need to open the account in the trust side immediately, you can use the EIN. Just kind of give you all some clues of how to open this account. Of course, you got to have your passwords, all the information in, and then you apply. Once you get to this part, like I said, if you open the individual side, this is the one that most people deal with. The social security number, this is going to be more difficult. If you don't have all your stuff together, they will ask you for additional documents. Next is the goal is for you to get past all of these organizations, which are corporation side. We want you to get on the what side? Estate or trust. That's what I keep saying. So make sure that you all see this in real time when you're dealing with the Treasury. Always tell them, hey, I'm on the estate and trust side. And when you do this, this is going to instantly bring you into layers that they're going to deal with certain departments. Because like I said, you're going to be dealing with them over the phone, or you may have to talk to them in person. These are our two things we're going to talk about later in our discussion of strategies that you need to make sure you use, even if you're using your social, making sure that you fully understand that you have to be thinking like a trust. Now, what is the give somebody a quiz to see which one will you choose if you had to choose this for the first time? Anyone want to shoot at the option you'll choose? You don't have to say it out loud. You can type it in the chat.
The trust.
All right, thank you. Make it easy, right? The trust.
Yeah.
All right. It's pretty easy, right? Once you get to this point where you start thinking like it's the trust, it's way easier to talk to the Treasury. Now, for those who don't have a trust, I don't have my trust. I don't know where my trust at. I lost my trust. I don't have my EIN. All that stuff, right? This is where it gets difficult, right? It gets difficult because we didn't keep our documents in place. We didn't know we don't know where it's at. The Treasury may ask you for it. Sometimes they got me like that. Hey, I need you to send the original doc we sent you. And I'm going over some of the things that I was tested with, but I'm just hoping that everyone else understands this as you go through this same information. So your answer should be trust. Just for those, if this is your first time going through this information, you should choose to trust. right? So that is the answer that I'm going to get through. I can't go past that screen because you have to get to that point. And then once you choose that, they'll say submit. It's interesting they say submit. They don't say next. So from there, now you can see the examples they're going to tell you to do. You put your trust and declaration of your trust, all that stuff we talk about later. We'll get into your covenant that you're supposed to have, your new covenant that I'll be talking about, which is an agreement. We'll talk about the covenant. Now, if you get into this part right here, you have to make sure you choose the one that says EIN. This is where people still get jammed up because you're still thinking like the social. So if you type the social in, even though you chose trust, that's why I had to go to this next screen, just to make sure we fully understand this part, it will give you an error and they will ask you for more information. So does anybody have any thoughts, questions, or shares when you get to this part too? Because the entity taxpayer identification number is very important once you get to this account as well. Because you do have a choice. You can choose this one or you can choose this one. All right, so obviously the answer should be here. And if you do that correctly, it should get you through all of that information. Once you get to this part, this is where it gets even more harder for those who decided to expatriate out of the system. You can't get past this screen if you decided to go into that process to expatriate out of a system. It's not going to work for you. Just for those who have done that, we're going to help you get back in just so you can get out again. So you got to go back in and you have to come out again just to get this part done. So they're going to ask you, for some of those who thought that you can get past this, for that ID number right here. Now, if you have the passport, I do think possibly it will work. I can't guarantee it. So if anybody asked the question about the passport working, I don't know for sure. But I do know when you were born in your state. So they look at your state as having jurisdiction in the beginning anyway, because they're going to still ask you this next question here, issuing state. So I don't know how you can get out of that just using the passport. Just for those who asked that question about using the passport to identify the account manager right here. So out of that, then you get out of that screen and it gets a little bit more difficult because you got to make sure that you understand that this is another person, that's yourself, that you can use that information. But this is the part that I wanted to get into. I went through all that information just to prove to you that at the end of the day, I'm still going to use the bank, but I am the banking system now. I'm using the bank to work for me instead of me working for the bank. So I'm being very easy with explaining this because I still need to have that sole prop bank account and that routing and account number here, even to get past this screen as well. So if you don't have the sole prop bank account, if you don't have the trust bank account, you won't be able to get through this screen either, because they're going to match up the information. They're going to see in the banking system, are you correctly set up the way we said to set yourself up? So I went through this to kind of purposely show how you are now supposed to communicate with the system as if you are the bank. You are managing the entire bank for yourself, right? So yes, you can choose savings or you can choose checking. So it doesn't matter which one it does. You can use saving. I like to say savings is always saving, is better for me. And you see the name on the account. So they're still going to ask that name on the account, right? So if it's the name of your trust, you put that name there. If it's your name, then you put your name there. And once you get past this, it's going to certify the screen and it should open up the account. If it does not open the account, it's because you didn't do something the way they wanted you to enter that information. It will give an error and you will see that your Treasury Direct account is not going to go through until you fix whatever thing that they say is on this list. So I'll close from this part right here to show you how the Treasury Direct is a task that you also can do before you get into their banking system. Any comments, questions, or shares on Treasury Direct? Okay, so
Sorry.
we got Empress Segment. Go ahead.
And I'm not sure if you said this.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
was trying to
for my
figure out.
freedom.
Wait, we got two
Oh, I
people
just did
speaking. Let's go to,
segment.
yeah, I said segment first, and then we got
Yeah,
you right after.
that's me. How are you? This
No
actually
problem.
is my first question since I've been in this group. Um, I opened up a Treasury Direct account, and I wanted to know, can you have your payroll check sent to your Treasury Direct account?
Um, Payroll, I can say the way it works when you deal with sending the check, you still need to have that banking system set up where it's the trust bank account. Some of us have a trust bank account, or you have the sole proprietor in your social. So that's the only way that we can keep you on the trust side. So you can't use a personal bank account in order to do that. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I think I opened up a personal Treasury Direct account. It's been a
Correct.
while. So I could send the payroll.
You can, if you choose to do it that way. Yes, you can buy things from your payroll, from your your bank that you use, but it's on, like you say, it'll be on the personal side. It will not
Okay,
be on the trust side if you do it that way. So the answer is yes, but it won't be on the trust side fully.
okay. Yeah, because
No
I'm
problem.
still working out the trust stuff.
No worries, no
Um,
worries. But if
thank
you use the social, just for a disclaimer on this part, so if one still uses the social, you must use a sole proprietor bank account.
Okay, all right. Thank
All
you.
right? No problem. Okay, we got some other questions in the chat. You can either I can read the question, or we got somebody else on the mic. Queen Mother was gonna go next, or somebody else was gonna go next. But whose name? I don't know who was gonna talk. I'm sorry. I just named somebody. It was okay. Go ahead. We got Chris on the mic.
I was asking, I already have a Treasury Direct and kind of like what she just said, but it's with my social. So I would open up a whole new thing with my trust EIN, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
It
Yep,
doesn't
that's
take it doesn't take away. So a lot of people who are hearing this is not we're not taking away what you did. It's a great thing that you did whatever you've done so far. Just for those who are here, this is an addition to what you're doing. Just for everybody that's doing this. So if you did not do the trust, then go ahead and do the trust side also.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem. So next it says, if I don't have a bank account, can I still open the account without using the routing? No, you can't. It doesn't work. You cannot open the account. Short answer is no. Just for that question that was sent in about if y'all don't have a bank account. That's a required question they asked us. And then we got Freeway said, yes, you can deposit the payroll into your TDA account. That is correct. Yes, you can. But like I say, it all depends on what size you're depositing the checks in. And like I say, you can buy those treasury marketable securities that you're here. And this takes you above the Federal Reserve. So this is above the Federal Reserve. Those who are still asking questions about how do I deal with the Federal Reserve banking system, this is what manages the Federal Reserve banking system, these things right here. Because as you know, the Federal Reserve banking system comes in with their bank account because they got a bank account too. And they come in and they buy these same things that I'm speaking of right here. So these are the full knowledge and understandings here. Look at it, FRNs. Look at that, floating rate notes. Look at that. So if you all used to hear this on the news, this is where they're talking about. They talk about your FRNs. Kind of funny. It sounds like Federal Reserve notes. Sound like it's the same word. Interesting. I never thought of it that way. FRNs, 2 year, and so on. So I'm getting into some of these things that we have never seen or heard before. But these are the things that we need to know because, like I say, you're not going to learn this at school. They would have taught us this, right? Why didn't they teach me about the Treasury Direct? So we got to get out of that mind. Don't think of them teaching you this. They are not going to teach you. This is why we're here to teach each other and learn from one another. All right. So any thoughts, questions, or shares on this diagram? And I'm going to get into our next diagram in just a few. And I'll close us out from the Treasury Direct account. No problem. So I hope you got all those questions out. So yes, the requirements of having a bank or bank account routing and account number is required for you to get through the Treasury Direct account side with the trust. So you got the trust side and you have the social. Some of you may have the revocable living trust with a bank account. You can use that too. That is also acceptable to use at the Treasury Direct. So if you have the revocable living trust bank account, you can use that. I think you can use the Charles Schwab account too. You can use those other types of accounts. But like I say, make sure it has the name of the trust and it says revocable living trust if it has your name on there, to be sure and ensure that it goes into the name of your trust, just to make sure we all have that part covered. All right, so that closes us out from the next thing that you use without the banking system, which is the Federal Reserve Bank, as well as which we say their Fedwire, like the sister said earlier about Fedwire. So we're here to get out of Fedwire because Fedwire is causing us to be in debt, which I'm going to get into this next diagram to prove how we're getting out of the debt and how we're going to be able to pay off all of the debt. All right, so my next diagram right here, I did skip one, but I'm going to go back to it. I forgot about the, it's going to come back. It's going to make sense in just a few. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is your private wealth management firm. That's what we're working on right now. All of us coming together at some point. I pray that we all come together with our trust and our estates and our things, and it comes together as a private wealth management firm. So that's what we're working on. We're working on something called a family office. I know people may see it's a bland word, but I guarantee when you type that in the system or the search is going to give you some high level stuff. A family office is a high level thing. Just for those who have never heard this before, this is their buzzword in the high level wealthy communities like the billionaire and so on, right? So yes, you're going to learn how to become part of the private wealth management firm. That is all of us that are coming together with our trust, our estates, our revocable living trust, and so on. We're going to create a family office. Let's read through what it says. It says a family office is a private wealth management firm that provides a range of services to ultra high net worth individuals and families. Look at that. Ultra high net worth. So you got to start thinking that you're going to have some big time money just for those who are here. You can't think on a small level saying, I want to just grab $50,000. I want to grab 100,000. That's all I want is just maybe just, maybe just, maybe just 400,000. No, no, you all got to start thinking bigger. You got to know what you're going to do with the funds when you get the funds. So it says typically those with at least, look at this. So you got to start thinking, would they say at least 50 to 100 million? Wow. All right. So y'all don't see the screen. Let me go ahead and stop share and share it again for you. I want to make sure you see this because it's very important that you see what a family office is. This ain't got nothing to do with no individual thing. So if you're here to be an individual, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to last too long being an individual. All right. So we're here to help you become a family, become part of the family, part of the family office, right? Typically those with at least 50 million to 100 million investable assets. That's right. So we come together, all of our assets, we come together with a huge family. It focuses on what? Investment management, wealth management, and legacy planning. Look at that. Legacy planning sounds like that revocable living trust and us using that trust and using those names that we're using and and building that wealth, generational wealth. Right? Shout out to Vince and the community that he's doing with the generational wealth. He's bringing out knowledge of how we're all supposed to be dealing with the legacy planning, right? So that's a big time part of using the revocable living trust. I don't know. Some of y'all say you can't see the screen. I don't know what's going on. It can be seen on my side.
Yeah, it's not on. It's not on the screen or on this end.
Hmm.
Wow, it's
Oh, that's interesting. Let me see. Maybe they don't want you to see how big the family office works. Let's see. Look, it just says, it still says has started sharing. It's not even sharing to you all yet.
No, it's not.
It's gonna show up soon. They don't want y'all to see it. That's what it
Exactly, or
is.
something going on.
Because I've been doing the same screen the whole time. Yeah, I haven't changed
Wow.
anything. Well, let me keep talking though,
Yeah, keep
because
talking. Yes.
I want y'all to make sure that we know what a family office is if you didn't know today. And what is the aim? Once you get to that legacy planning, which we're doing with the generational wealth, you're going to be dealing with your wealth management, which is your bank accounts, your banking system, all that information, and your investment management. So you got to have investment accounts, stocks, bonds, businesses. That's your investment management. Y'all supposed to have multiple businesses, not just one business, not just two, multiple. That's what the investment management means. Last, you got your transfer of wealth across generations. That's it. So you got to give it over to the next generation. It's not all just for you, right? So that I'm reading the screen what it says. I'm just trying
Exactly.
to help you all see what it means. Maybe I can keep resharing and it works. But if it doesn't, then we'll just keep reading and hopefully it'll show up. Let me do this. Let me send the link in the chat. That's how we'll overcome it for y'all.
Yeah.
Let me send the link of the screen that I'm showing right quick in the chat. Because you all saw the treasury screen. You saw the other screen. So this is the link I'm looking at right here. You should be able to see that. Maybe it's my internet buffering out. So let me go ahead and check that. And that should possibly be the reason why it's not working. But maybe somebody was. Yeah, it's not showing it now. It's not even showing it. So we're gonna just leave the screen alone for right now, and we'll just talk it out because realistically saying this right now, the family office is something that you all can research on your own and just see that is real. First things first, you're gonna find it's called private wealth management. And like I said, you can't be here just thinking about a little bit of funds. You got to think about how you're able to get, you know, a good amount of funds within your whole community or yourself. I mean, like not yourself, but your family, not just the household that you have, but they're saying different trusts, high net worth individuals and families. That's what it says. So it's not just the individual path, it's everybody. You have to think about everybody having the same legacy planning. So read this next one. It says, family office can offer personalized services, which we're offering now. So once you all build your trust, build your estate, you're going to be offering services to other trusts and other estates so that you can help build their services and their products and things of that sort. Because you got to all have something that you give. You got to have something that you offer. That's what that means. You have to have something. So this includes financial advisory. It says charitable giving and concierge services. I know that word concierge, that's a word that I like to use now because that kind of covers a lot of things when you're dealing with concierge. That's the level that you all have to start thinking that your trust is offering. There are two main types, single family offices, which serve one family, and then it says and multi-family offices, which serve multiple families. So that is the whole point. I think that some of us are working on. We're either serving our family or we're working on a multiple family office connection. So I hope that helps with the private wealth management. I wish I would have been able to share the screen to kind of get you all through the next thing and the next phase of what you're going to be able to do and prove as you begin to get ready to talk to the treasury. Because you got to start talking to the treasury with a high mind, and you have to think about this on a high level. You can't think of it on a, which we say, a minimal or minimized mindset. So any thoughts so far about the private wealth management firm that I was able to read for us so far? Okay, it's not allowing me to share. So let me see if I can exit and then come back in. See if it allows me to do that. Maybe that'll help us out. In the meantime, I just was able to think about a question to ask everybody, just to kind of pick your brain for a moment. What is a debtor to us? What do you think a debtor is? If you had to deal with the corporation system, what is a debtor to you?
One who owes debt.
Somebody who has your social security card number.
Okay, good. Someone who owes debt, someone who has a social security card, okay, or your social security number, right? That could be another one. Anybody else have any? What is a debtor? What is a debtor? Someone who owes a creditor.
Someone that owes debt.
Someone that owes debt. So even if you have a trust, maybe you still owe a debt. So you could still owe a debt even if you have a trust, right? Okay. Any other ones? Last shot. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut it and leave and then come back in and see if this works with the computer. Obligations. Okay, I like that word. Somebody use obligations. That's a big one. We're gonna get into that screen in just a moment, talk about the debtor. Obligations. So anybody feel obligated right now to do anything, to pay anything? Does anybody feel obligated? Like today, like if you had to do something and you had to pay for something, do you feel obligated that you have to pay for that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's be honest. All of us are feeling in some form obligated to pay something.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna break this down in just a few. I think I figured out how to get the screen to show. Go back right here. So obligations, anybody know the code that tells you where obligations are coming from? Where do you get the obligations? That's right. All debts are obligations of what? Somebody wrote the answer in there.
United States.
United States.
Aha. See? Look at that. Now the screen want to work. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I get to this part. All right. So this is how you're going to talk to the IRS too. You got to start thinking like this. Who is the debtor? Do you think you're the debtor?
Nope.
No.
They owe us money because they've been taking out our monies through the social security number.
Okay. But aren't you the beneficiary once you have a trust, right?
Yes.
All right. So how do you have that beneficiary mindset instead of the debtor? That's the question we're going to ask everybody today. How do you ensure that you don't talk to them as you're the debtor?
The 1099B beneficial interest.
That's just a form. That's just a document. You're talking about you're talking. You're not just giving them a document. They're like, okay, thank you. Can you
You have
explain?
to you have to learn what to say and how to say it.
Okay, thank you.
You have to learn it.
I'm getting some more realism right here. Okay. All right. It's some
Yeah,
realism. I'm talking to y'all now.
You have to
I was gonna,
learn it.
I was gonna say is the way you conduct yourself.
You
All
still
right.
got to learn it.
Yeah,
How to, don't you? They indoctrinated us with all this crap. Like Wallace says, we got to get all that out of our head. We got to learn the new, how to really perform, how you really talk to these people the right way.
Exactly. You got to talk. This is internal, y'all. Think about
Mm-hmm.
this. This is an inside job. That's why I asked this question. Who's the debtor? Do we feel obligated? I'm gonna read it for us. Let's kind of give the context to this. It says, in the context of 3002A, United States debtor, the term debtor refers to a person who is liable for a debt or against whom there is claim for a debt. This includes amounts owed to the United States due to various sources such as loans, fines, or other debts. The law governing these definitions is outlined in 28 United States Code 3002, which provides comprehensive set of definitions related to federal debt collection and the debtor's rights and responsibilities. So I found this right, through Bing search. So I just wanted to read this to show where we're learning who is the debtor, right? Who is actually the debtor. So let's look at the law and read who is the debtor. As we know, we find a clue. Somebody said the United States. You may be spot on. Let's read and see what the law says the United States. Look at it as a court. Court is a debt, a place that collects debt, the court. So when you say taxes and funds and finances, the court, we already explained to you, the court is a bank. Court is a bank. Debt means, amount owing to the United States, as we just read. A debtor means this right here. Someone's liable, garnishee, a person, security agreement. United States mean, wow, look at this, 15. A federal corporation. Interesting. So United States is a corporation. It's a federal corporation at that. So when you owe the federal government, this is what it means right here. A federal corporation. The next layer of United States means an agency, a department. So that's the department of your state or department of whatever. Every state has a department of state. Got your commission, your board of governors, your board of trustees. Your board of commissioners, all that stuff. So these are people that are playing the United States. These are your places. These are your locations. Or other entity to the United States. An instrumentality of the United States. So these are all debtors right here. I'm showing you in their definition, every single person listed under this definition is a debtor. According to this law, according to this understanding of what they're saying this is a debtor, or how the debtor is brought into the debt, right? These are some of the definitions they're using, right? So I'm not a expert at law. I'm just reading where I got the information from, and I just want to understand more of where this is coming from. So I wanted to get into why the obligation is of the United States and how you're not supposed to feel that this is an obligation for you. This is not your obligation unless you actually feel like you're the debtor and you're the one that owes the debt to the United States. So let's go right here to a next screen and kind of overlay that for you. I think that's found in 18 United States Code. I think it's found in 8. I think I remember seeing that before one time. 18 United States Code 8. So you find this in their codes and their laws, in their federal law, which is the corporation. I just went over this, right? So everything they're doing in their courts is all a federal corporation. So all these obligations right here, the term obligation or other security in the United States includes what? All bonds, certificate of indebtedness, national bank currency. Federal Reserve notes. Look at that. Every single Federal Reserve note. That's why we're supposed to give all those notes back. Give it all back to the Treasury. Don't hold on to the notes. Get rid of them. Federal Reserve bank notes. That means all the notes and the CD deposits y'all may have, the bank notes, all those notes. Liquidate those notes, right? Give it back. Coupons. United States notes. Treasury notes. Here we go. So that goes into your Treasury checks. Those are Treasury checks. Those are your notes. Because the Treasury also writes notes. They write on the check, right? They tell you how much the check is going to have on it. That is a note. This is an obligation or security. It says obligation or other security of the United States. That's what they tell you. So this is why we get right into the Treasury. Then you got your gold certificate. So when they write you a gold certificate, a silver certificate, fractional notes, certificates of deposit, bills. I bet y'all thought y'all was supposed to pay y'all bills. They just told you they are the ones that's supposed to pay the bills. This their obligation. But if you feel like it's yours, you're gonna start thinking it's your bills too. You see how they get us? They say they didn't teach us about money. That's why I'm getting into the definitions to show and prove through the law how they're writing this right for us to read it and we can see it too. The checks, look at that, checks. When you write checks or you get checks, whether it's the payroll check, the direct deposit check, this is an obligation of the United States. Or drafts for money. All right, some of those doing those negotiable instruments and drafts and things of that sort. Yeah, this is a obligation of the United States. Even if you create a draft or a what they call those negotiable instrument or bill of exchange, all those things right there. That's what they call it. Because you're drawing it upon who? Drawn by or upon authorized officers of who? The United States. It says United, it's got stamps and other representatives of value. So when you go to the post office, even if you get their stamps, it is still a debtor's instrument. It's still part of their debtor's system. Representation of value of whatever denomination issued under any act of Congress and canceled. Look at that. So they even got y'all on the canceled stamps. I didn't even know they said that. Look at this. Even the canceled stamps that we get is still part of their debtor system, still part of the United States obligations, according to the 18 United States Code 8. So I close from this part just to kind of give you all some of the debtor instruments that they're going to give you and tell you to use, and you don't even understand or even understand where this stuff is coming from. So we had to read through this for years to kind of grasp it and understand it as we go. But I just wanted to make sure we grasped through what the debtor was, because the debtor led us from this part where it says a debtor means a person who is liable for a debt or against whom there is a claim for a debt. So somebody can make a claim for a debt against you. This is also a debtor. That's also part of the debtor system. All right, so I close from this to kind of help everybody understand how this works. The garnishee, look at that. It's how they garnish the paycheck. The garnishees and the garnishers, all this stuff right here. Who's the garnisher? Right? Who's, see these layers they don't want to tell us about. Garnishing the paycheck. And the employer always agrees with them. Interesting. It's like the employer can't do anything. They just give it to them. Like that doesn't make any sense. But do you see why they're all in the system together? So that part right here
Yep.
is where I'm trying to get us to understand the debtor. And we also see the United States is playing this debtor as well, along with all their agents and their agencies of the government. So I close from this point right here. If anybody have any thoughts, questions, or shares on this point right here, we just wanted to make sure we knew how we're supposed to entry our mind before going and talking to the Treasury. You're supposed to think of yourself no longer as the debtor, right? Like we say, somebody mentioned the creditor side. So we'll get into the creditor side, but first I had to show you the debtor side. So we can get out of the debtor side first in our mind. So by the time we talk about the creditor side, it'll be an easy, swift, which we say movement over to the trust side, which we know the trust side is, which we know for sure is the creditor side. So when you operate through the trust, which is the revocable living trust, this creates you instantly by when you talk to the Treasury, you're able to say, I'm on the trust side, I'm on the estate side, right? So if you keep saying you're on the corporation side, I just gave you the answers. I don't care which corporation department it is. It don't matter. That's the corporation side, right? So that's the corporation side. So we got to make sure we totally understand this, even when you're talking to even the Internal Revenue Service. So I hope that helps with the debtor. And I wanted to get into another form in just a moment, but does anybody have any thoughts to the debtor and different strategies that you may think of when you're dealing with that side also?
That's
And
why
I
I
hear
was,
from you.
that's why I was saying they had indoctrinated us, conditioned us from, I would say, birth to now, to our ages up now. Now, like you said, we have to learn and we have to deprogram ourselves and recondition ourselves all over again to learn the right way. Not you.
But feel free, anyone else, before we go to our next system that I think this one's going to be a little difficult because I know most of us may not even know of this one. I'll talk about in just a few. All right, so let's move right into it. Man, this is intense because they figured out a way to layer this stuff and wrap it all over. All right, so your next one that I skipped on purposely because I wanted to not get to the biblical principles yet. I'm gonna save those for last. Once I get into your biblical principles, this will bring us all the way home to see why the biblical principles are also being used against you through their courts of law, which we'll understand how they're using the Bible, which we're going to say the biblical principles against you. Now let's get right into the one that I want to show you how to get out of the debtor side. And you simply do it. I know it may seem new and you don't know, but you have to think of it at some point in your life and eventually do it. This is going to help you get out of it. This is going to be called your secured transaction registry. I'm going to show you how it looks in Florida for me, but this will be the same thing in your state. You have to learn in your state how to place yourself as the creditor, right? You got to make sure you're the creditor and you're no longer the debtor, right? So we're going to prove that you're the creditor, and this is going to make it easier to prove these things once you do something called a UCC. Now, I know this sounds something that you've heard before. Maybe you've heard it through the sovereign or the secure party, all these different things, but we're doing it totally different because we're using the revocable living trust. So we want you to use the revocable living trust when you deal with this system. So you got to make sure the revocable trust is utilizing this system as well. So as you can see in my state, it has the way you can look at the filings, you can retrieve the information in the system, and it's going to get you through the banking system as well. Matter of fact, this is the bank's boss. And if anybody want to know who's the boss of the bank, well, this is the boss of the bank right here for anybody who had never known this in your state. So this is where you want to deal with almost everything that you deal with, as we say, financial instruments. So I'll yield for now. Any comments, questions, or thoughts so far about the secure transaction registry?
Yes. Could I make a comment? Uh,
Yes, go ahead.
yeah. Okay. I was trying to find out. I don't know if this is the same situation where I heard people talking about you put all your debts into the trust and then you can discharge your debt like that. Is this the same process with that?
Short answer is no, not fully. I would say it's part of doing your, which we say your registry of your transaction. That's why it says it the way it says it, right? Because you're the banking system now. You have to make sure you're in charge over the bank. So this is why I say this is the boss of the bank right here.
Okay, because I did a UCC before and I have a UCC lien and all this stuff, but I have put stuff, I guess, in the trust, but it don't seem to stop anything from happening. I mean, they continue to do whatever they do, regardless.
Yeah, no problem. That's why I say it's part of the process, if we call it a process. But like I say, this is your financial instrument. So when you get into this secure transaction, this is a little harder to deal with, like I mentioned earlier, because it's new to us. We never knew we're supposed to put our billers there, the debtors. Who are the debtors? Are you listing all of the debtors? That's part of our reason why we're doing this. Right? So this goes right into who is the boss over this right here. I'm going to prove this right here for a moment to show in your state. In your state, this is part of your bankers association. Remember this bankers association we talked about in our last calls, I think about some weeks, maybe some months ago. We talked about the bankers associations of every state. So you got to prove that you're over the banking system as well. And this is part of the trust. So you got to make sure it's a trust that's discharging the debt. So I answer your question by saying if it's on the trust side, yes, it can be, which we'll say paid off, but like we don't say discharge, because when you say discharge, it means it can come back. I discharged it, but the charge came back, right? So it's a discharge, it's not a payoff. So we kind of use the correct words when we say we're using this system, because our goal and intention is to pay off, which we say the entire debt, right? Because it's a debt, right? That's why I want to make sure we fully grasp the UCC understanding next, because that is going to get you out of the debtors or the debtor side. But it's a little difficult to show that on Florida's site, but I just wanted to give everybody an understanding of how, let me see if I got a document of how it looks, where you can just look at a form or something. Like, so here we go, a form, what they call it, a UCC1. So this is what it looks like. So for those who have heard of this or seen this before, every state has this. You, in some format, have to understand it. I know it's something new to us. Like, what is this? Well, I never heard of this stuff. This is hard, right? So this, it's okay. We just take our time with it, look at the forms, begin to just get more accustomed to understanding what you're doing. So the whole point is, like the brother said, I think somebody said in the chat right here, he said, all you do is you're just adding people. That's all you're doing. You're just adding people to the whatever account. Exactly. That's all it is. Because all these accounts, like we have right here, additional parties, or UCC1, you add your additional party. So this is important that we see this. Let me go and download it. Let me see if I can pull the screen of it real quick. All right, so you all can see at least an example of how a UCC looks. How does that even work? There we go. Okay, so here it goes right here. So this is an example of a UCC, a Uniform Commercial Code. So you have to deal with all of your situations that are financial through this form. That's what they say that you're going to have to do the work, because the debtor, remember, you're not the debtor anymore. You're not supposed to be the debtor, right? You're supposed to be part of the secured side. You're secured. So if you want to know the answer, you're moving yourself from this side to the secured side. That's the answer. Now, it's two ways you can do it. They got the individual side, which you fill out a part for the individual, and you also got your trust. So we also say you need both. So if some of us are, just using our social, then you also need to use your trust as well. So I hope that answers some of our questions for the Uniform Commercial Code, which is a difficult thing to get into because it can be a lot to digest in the beginning state. Which some of us may have never heard of this before. It's our first time knowing that your state is over something called a UCC, which is a financing statement that the banking system is doing for you. So they're getting all your credits because they're filing the UCC for your credits, but you're not getting your credits because you're not filing your financial statements to give or to prove to the Treasury. So I hope that answers a lot of questions. This is plain sight information, but hopefully anybody else have any thoughts, questions, or shares before I close from this section right here.
So what are you saying, Wallace, is we all have to add our debt, all our the debt, the bill people are the debtors, and we have to list them on that UCC. Is that what you're saying?
Short answer is yes. I'm saying everyone that you're paying
Yes, that's what I'm
needs
talking
to,
about. Yeah,
everyone that's, yeah, exactly, because you're the one that's the payer or you're the one that's the creditor. You're giving credit
yes.
or so on, right?
Okay.
And I hope that helps with not saying that, yeah, in a more sense, yes, in a way, but
Because
not necessarily to every single person,
right.
but in a strategic way, you want to do this. So I'll let Freeway, he had his hand up as well, but I hope that answers a little bit of your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So when it comes to the UCC ones, if anybody does a UCC 11 search in the state, you're not going to find anything. It's not that these companies have UCC one liens against you all, it's that you guys never stepped up to take your stuff back. They're the bully on the playground that's saying your cupcake is mine. You never smacked the bully in the face and took back what's yours. You just let him take it. So that's essentially what we have to do in doing these processes. So by the time you get to doing UCC one, you're going to find that they never filed one. They might say they did, but they know they can't because they can't perfect the lien. Because there's some stuff that they haven't done. They're still operating in the fraud. This is why you go in and you file one. And you assign every doggone thing as that all caps SSN to the trust on that UCC one. Every time a new bill comes out, oh, okay, cool. Let me assign this to the trust using that UCC one, which is a public notice, and it can double as a lien. But you set the lien, and I yield.
Absolutely, man. That's a mouthful you said, but that is absolutely correct. The way you're coming at it, because you're now confronting the bully. I like how you brought that analogy to us. So this is a bully, someone making you feel like you got these obligations, but you're confronting it now. You're actually coming at it a different way, and you're getting yourself above the bully, they'll say. That's a great way of putting that, the way Freeway Mechanics was able to give that illustration of the UCC. Anybody else have any thoughts of what we've discussed so far about the UCC or the Uniform Commercial Code?
When we file the UCC on them, we are the secured party, or the debtor is them.
Okay, short answer. What did you say? The UCC. Say it one more time for me. I want to make sure I hear it right.
Oh, sorry. So we are the secured party and they're the debtor, because isn't that what the boxes are?
Okay, so the way you're approaching this, remember, is a revocable living trust. So are you the revocable living trust? So that's the question. Is that's the way you're going to approach it, right? So you're going to make sure it's approached as the revocable living trust, right?
Okay, yes, as the trustee, but using the trust now.
All right. So what is the trustee? Is a trustee a what? What is the answer for what you are now when you're in their realm as a trustee? Starts with a S.
Secured party?
No, no, that's not the answer. Anybody else want to shoot at it? What is the answer? It starts with a S when you're a trustee in their realm. No, it's not a surety. It's a simple word we always use all the time, you all. In the IRS system, they're going to ask you what your social is. What is that? I'll give you all another
Sole
clue. What's your social?
proprietor.
All right, there we go. That's the answer.
Sorry. Yep.
There we go. Anybody else have a thought to that? That's the answer you want to make sure you explain to the IRS. So that's one of your answers. The IRS ever ask you about your social, what are you going to say that you are to this with the trust as your social in their system?
I'm
Sole
the sole
proprietor.
proprietor.
There you go. That's it.
He
That's
wrote
your
that.
only answer.
Exactly.
Now, if you say you're anything else, then it's not going to add up.
Right.
All right. So that's a layered question. I know that it can be something that we got to make sure you're ready for. So when you're talking to them, they may ask you for the social. And you're like, wow, why are they asking me for the social? I'm talking about the trust. Well, yeah, they're identifying if you are now doing business in your social. Does all make sense, you all? So make sure that you're all looking at this from the trust side at all times, the revocable trust.
Right.
Okay, so let's get to our next screen. This is going to get to our biblical principles. This is where it gets really intense because now you're dealing with the biblical principles they're going to be using against you when you're dealing with the internal revenue, which we're going to deal with your which they call your funds or your money. So I'll go to my next diagram. Okay. All right, so we got a biblical principle I want to pull up today is coming from Bible Gateway. I pulled this up in a New Living Translation and gave a better understanding of what it meant in that word. There are other translations and versions, but I just use this one for now. The New Living Translation, it says right here, it says, after supper, he took another cup of wine and said, this is the cup, this is the new covenant. This cup is the new covenant between God and his people. An agreement confirmed with my blood, which is poured out as a sacrifice for you. Very interesting. So this is a statement that's being made, but we sometimes see this in a religious perspective, but we also don't see the blood connection to your family, your blood family, your blood relatives, your kinfolk, your people, your people, you know, right? So your covenant that we're going to show and talk about today, of this covenant that some of us have not been able to fully understand through the biblical principles, the way they're seeing you, is the revocable living trust. And being specific, it is the revocable trust instrument that you are now saying that you live in and you live through, because it's your agreement that you're going to now have with God and with your people, right? So it says, look right here, it says between God and his people. So I was able to create a trust where I'm giving everything over, you know, to God, where I'm able to connect myself back to the common law side, which is God. As they say, one nation under God. So whatever God that is, you got to make sure it's the correct God and his people. So the people is your family, is your people that you have, that's your kinfolk, people you place within your trust. These are your people in agreement. As you see, the agreement is what it eventually said that that covenant is. So I wanted to make sure that we saw in the biblical principles how this is part of what even will say that Christ or Yeshua, Jesus, has said that he had a trust. So I wanted to bring in how even at a certain point, we learned that even Jesus or Yeshua, he had a trust. And he had a revocable living trust, and how he was able to approach the government. He was able to approach Rome. He was able to do all these things at these times with, we'll say, this new covenant. So I wanted to bring this as a new understanding that the word covenant that we have religionized our mind with is totally different in the realm that they're using the banking and as well as the money, right? So the money and the banking is also a layer that we see the scripture. If we're going to say this is scripture, we're just using this as a guidebook. They're using this as a guide. They're using these principles. We're going to say principles as the covenant. This is what they're seeing as your agreement. So I wanted to bring that out this week to kind of give us ideas of what the biblical principles are giving you. As you begin to approach the Internal Revenue Service, you have more confidence that you're on the common law side, which we say just in plain English that when you say common law, this means that you actually honor the laws of God. You actually use God's law that they'll tell you. So this is a first witness or part that I wanted to give you from Luke 22:20. So even if you're not of the religion or of the faith, they're still using the principles against you, right? So they're using the Bible, they'll say in court, when they tell you to swear in or to swear to tell the truth and so on, right? So we understand that you're not supposed to swear, as we went over our call last week talking about not to swear at all, right? So that is very important that you're not swearing, because you're able to get into that new covenant now once you use that affirmation, right? We'll go into the affirmation of your agreement. Next is you're going to go into the next book that I want to show you. Once again, it's not going into what you're seeing on a religious perspective. We're going to get out of the religion and we're going to start to see the money and the banking, right? So when we see this part, I'm going to go to Matthew 21:12. This should explain to you in a New Living Translation. I use this translation to make it easier to understand in our time, to see why we see the part where Jesus clears the temple, or Jesus, Yeshua, he's going to clear the temple, because the temple is your name, is your system, yourself, clearing out all these debts that's inside of us, all these billers, all these different people. So we see that is part of the money and the banking right? So when we're dealing with the banking system, we see all our debit cards transactions, all of our checks that we had to write, all our bills we had to pay. Then you got the money, then the money that we had to create, the money we had to make, the money we had to figure out how we're gonna get. So we see that this was the problem because there's so many people in our accounts. We see this as part of the banking system where we see Jesus in this perspective is a totally different understanding. When I read this, we're going to see that when Jesus was clearing out the temple, he's clearing out all these different people that was in his account. So Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out all the people buying and selling animals for sacrifice. Look at this. This is dealing specifically with money. So when we saw this buying and selling in the temple, which is yourself, which is you, we see all these things happening with a transaction with the banking system. So what did he do when he saw this situation? He knocked over the tables of the money changers. Look at this, the money changers. So we see these people were changing money in the account. They were changing the money. They were in the temple. They were inside changing things, right? Look at this from more of a, like I say, money and banking perspective now. When you start to see this perspective, the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves. Look at that. The chairmans, the chairs. As you start to see the chairs, those chairs that they're sitting in, these places, they're sitting in there as they're you, right? They're acting like they're you and they're managing you like they know what you need. So when we look at this from the biblical perspective, this is going to get you more to take it more, as we say, more importantly, to focus on is important every day so that you can get rid of these people in your account. Because these people are all over your account. Because you got to drive all the people out just like Jesus did. Because Jesus saw people inside the temple. He saw people inside his account too in Rome. Because this is Rome, y'all. We got to keep it realistic in the times of Rome and how you would see these beginnings of these different systems coming in, especially the banking system. As we went over from when the brethren came in from one of our calls, he talked about the taxes, right? As you can see that there's two things that are guaranteed is taxes. As you say, death and taxes, they'll tell you. And then they ask the question, they ask, okay, whose superscription is on this coin? So we went over that. We understand the superscription that they'll talk about in that verse, the coins or the funds or the money. This goes right back to our beginning of our studies that we talked about earlier, where all the money came from, where all the coins came from, right here. So you're gonna give all those coins back to this system right here that they came from. So the Bureau of Engraving and Printing came in and gave us all of the coins. They gave us all of the they'll call it the money, right? So when the bank came in and grabbed, they were changing the money. They were able to come in and grab the money for us. And when they did this, they got us something called currency. And it started to circulate all throughout our accounts. And eventually the treasury was like, wow, there's so many people dealing with this. Oh my gosh, we have to do something. So they regulated a system that they call today, as we understand on a more basic level, we understand this system that the treasury began to regulate and maintain is called the Federal Reserve System, right? So the Federal Reserve System is in charge of all of the money at this point that we're talking about at this point, because we have created this value of money and we've created so much of it that we can't get rid of it now. So I'm going to go into some layers and I'm going to close out from this part before you get into talking to the treasury, and we'll go into some ideas and thoughts and shares of some strategies we're going to be able to use when we talk to the IRS, when you talk to the treasury in just a few. So I'll read this last part. It says the US currency is used as a medium. Look at this. Wow, telling us right here in our face. The US currency is used as a medium of exchange and a store of value around the world. According to the Federal Reserve, there is more than 2 trillion worth of Federal Reserve notes in circulation. Currency production is not an easy or simple task, but one that involves highly trained and skilled craftspeople. Look at this, the craftsmen, the crafty, specialized equipment, and a combination of traditional old world printing techniques. merged with sophisticated, cutting edge technology. We invite you to explore US currency. Look at this. This is how the invitation came in to explore the US currency, beginning with its origins and leading up to how it is secured and manufactured today. All right, so this is your education right here today. So those who want to learn financial literacy of their entire system, this is where you learn it here, right? So if you want to go into these layers and learn more about next week, we'll talk about some of these different things that you're going to be talking about, how you were able to manage your banking system, how you were able to come in and kick out these money changers, kick out these billers, kick out these debtors and different people that are in your account. So I wanted to give us some backgrounds to why we're feeling confident once you get access to that trust, once you get access to talking to that US Treasury, because you got to feel like you get the money. Because if you don't feel like you're getting the money, then they're not going to release it to you. Right? So you got to have the right mind and you got to have the right heart when you're dealing with this, because your integrity has to be there when you're talking to the Treasury. So I'll yield from this point. I'll give everybody opportunity to speak on different things. I'm going to talk about how you're going to talk to the Treasury, talk to the IRS, and just a few and different numbers that you're going to be able to call. And you want to just ask simple questions. You don't want to go in there asking, complicated things. You want to ask direct questions and make sure they understand what you're talking about. And you know that it's going to get taken care of. All right, so open up the mic. Anybody want to have any thoughts, questions, or shares on our presentation so far based upon the biblical principles that they're using as well? And the courthouse is one of your biggest money changer. So we're going to talk about how you're going to deal with the courthouses in our next sessions next week. And throughout our weeks, we'll talk about the courthouse, because I know some of us are still dealing with the courthouse and how to approach it and how to talk and how to communicate. But you got to be on your A game when you're dealing with the courthouse. And we'll talk more about the courthouse later. But today, we want you all to communicate with the Treasury first before you deal with the courthouse. So you have some leverage, because if you can communicate with the Treasury or the IRS, I guarantee you will have no problem dealing with the courthouse. So any thoughts, questions, or shares, I yield for now and give everybody opportunity to speak on what you thought about the biblical principles and different things that you got to do to get all the debtors out of your account. All right, so let's get right into it. So this will close us out for the day. Thank you all for attending this week, and we're going to get right into some of the things that you can do to get right on the horse, because when Monday hits, the system is open. But I know due to the holidays, they're going to be closing out for Christmas Eve as well as the Christmas days. So just use this as a time to practice this so that you'll be ready for the week next. So we want to make sure that you're all ready before you deal with calling or talking to the IRS. So let's go into that next screen if there's no more thoughts, questions, or shares. So right here, we have some of the strategies that I just wanted to type in. Somebody, was doing the same thing and wanted to see what popped up. So I like this right here. They'll tell you before calling the IRS, people should know what info they'll need. So I have people, I tell you, these are some strategies. Do not try to call the IRS while you're driving, while you're in traffic or something, or while you're busy. Because the IRS is going to ask you for certain documents and certain information that you got to have right on the deck. So one of the questions they're going to ask you for is some of these questions you may deal with on your tax return. Let me just skip down to some of the bullet points they're using. Social security numbers. So you need your social security number, your birth dates, your individual tax identification number if you have the ITIN instead of your socials. They're going to ask for that information over the phone. Prior year tax return. This is where we get a lot of people fumble right here. They're going to ask y'all questions about the tax return from last year. So you need to know those answers or those lines. They say, what is the AGI of 2022? What's the AGI on 2023? You see what I'm saying? You don't know what they're going to ask, so you got to have those forms or those documents ready. If you say you don't have it or you didn't file, then they're not going to probably ask you that question. They're going to probably ask you for the forms that you did file. Uh, Phone representatives may need to verify taxpayer identity with information from the return before answering certain questions. There we go. So that phone representative is what we're going to talk about when you deal with the phone. You want to make sure you verify your identity over the phone. If you cannot verify your identity over the phone, it's just like verifying your identity in person. So we want to make sure everybody emphasize this. It is a lot easier if you do in person, which is okay if you can get that appointment, because you got to make an appointment with the window. You can walk it in, get it stamped, get all these different things done. You can turn your tax return in, you can turn your 1041s in. You can do a lot of stuff in person. So there are strategies to do it in person, but there's also strategies where you can do it over the phone. Right. So for those who have the patience and the time, we like to say the phone method is if you um, feel like that's a thing that you can do. So any comments or questions so far about the phone versus the in person? Does anybody want to give an idea of what you think is better? Do you feel like it's better to go in person, make an appointment, or do you feel like using the phone is just as important?
I say using the phone is important also. That way you have all your ducks in order and you have everything in line, what they ask you, where you can present to them. First, you got to get everything together before even calling them. Because once you know what you got to do and gather, you'll have everything. So it should be easier for you to just, whatever they ask you, you can just go run it down to them, whatever they need or want, because you'll have it already. But you have to get everything together and learn everything what you got to have.
That's right. Right here, we're learning. They're going to ask you for those prior year tax returns. So if you got, let's say you filed 2023, 2024, go ahead and have those tax returns ready in your hand, or just be able to log in when you can see that, because they're going to ask you that over the phone. So just for those who are new to this, you want to make sure you can verify over the phone, because it's just as important as verifying in person. That's a good thought. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any thoughts to this? Because this is important, so you have the confidence to know what type of information they may ask. I don't know. They may ask you something. They say just prior year tax returns. Come on, you all shoot at it, because this is you now dealing with the IRS. And when you all are not here on the call Monday through Friday, it's just you. It's you and the IRS. Nobody can be on the phone with you. They actually hang up the phone. Let's say you got somebody coaching you on the side. We tried that before. It doesn't work. They can't coach you. They'll hang the phone up. You sitting there for an hour and they'll hang the phone up because you asked somebody a question. So we got to be careful with strategies when you're talking to the Treasury. Got to make sure you're on, you're ready to go. Like I say, don't be in the car in traffic and you didn't have the tax return ready. All right, so we just want to make sure this isn't no quick call to the Treasury or to the IRS. That's right. So we got somebody else put in another one. Let's say you're dealing with the EINs. That's if you got the trust. So we'll talk about the trust next session. I'm just gonna give you all just the one with the social. All right. So we're talking about the social right now. It doesn't matter how much the money is on the social. Let's say you got a Treasury check. Doesn't matter how much it is. It could be $10. It could be however much it is. Right. These are the same steps. Next is they're going to ask you a copy of the tax return in question. So that means the one that you're trying to get the money for, or you trying to get questions on, you got to have that copy of that tax return ready to go. All right. So it's very important that you have access to those things. We like to say if you did it through the software, it should be very easy for you to access that. Now, if you don't have the software information where somebody did it for you, we got to go download it. You got to have it. Make sure you have it together. Right. Make sure it's available. Make sure you can pull it up. Next, they may ask you for IRS letters or notices. So they're gonna ask you for that notice. Did you receive it? Can you show us that notice you received, or do you have a notice or whatever? Now, like I say, they may not ask you for every single thing at one time, but you just got to be ready. That's why we're here to tell you how this looks when you're calling the IRS, and different things of this sort right here. Now, these are other things that you can do. I wanted to go into this whole how you can get the power of attorney to be activated in real time too when you deal with the phone, because I actually saw how it works, where they will activate your power of attorney over the phone, which I won't get into details this week because most of these things I have to do one-on-one sessions, because even if I say how to do it, it's still going to seem cloudy and shaky of what I'm even talking about. So let me give you some examples of how this works. If I'm on the phone with the IRS agent, I am supposed to have everything I need so I can update my financial account in their system. That's what I'm doing. I'm updating my financial account in the government system. That's what we're doing. And you want to make sure it deals with you looking at this from the revocable living trust side. All right, so don't just do this without the revocable living trust in mind. And you also have your instrument, because at any time the Treasury may say, well, look, can you just send us that trust? Can you send us that trust instrument that you say you have? We want to just look at that too, right? So for some of us just jumping into the game, they could possibly ask you for that instrument. So you may need to have that instrument ready too, to prove you have the trust. They may ask you for the EIN of the trust also. Right. So you all see what I'm saying when you're getting into this. So sometimes when you're thinking about this and you feel comfortable, let's say you have a high check or you're getting a large amount back, you should feel comfortable if you have all the information ready to go. So this is what they're going to tell you right here. I'm going to make sure I read this to make it careful to you that you're not able to be coached. This is where you're at the door. And after you enter that door, you are by yourself and you're on your own. So right here it says, by law, IRS representatives will only speak with the taxpayer. Look at this. So I wanted to make sure I read this for you all and show you on the website what it says, not what I said or what somebody else said. I'm just telling you that you're the only one that can go in and you're the only one that can come out. You can't be coached at that point. That's why they say we coach you or we give you support up to that point so that you can grow, so that you can know what to do when you begin to deal with the IRS representatives. So that's what we sell. If we always say, what are you selling? I'm selling you what I'm giving. I'm giving you the understanding that you must understand how to talk to them. Because at the end of the day, once you're there, nobody knows what you're going to say. Right? We don't even need to know what happens. We don't even need to know how much money you got. That's up to you. You can say whatever you want to say, but they're not going to talk to us. They're only going to talk to you. So making sure we see this, if you all want to get the treasury checks and start to show all these things, or if you want to show the tax returns and all this stuff, you can, but this is private knowledge and private information once you get access to this information. All right. Like I say, some people cover their address up. Some people cover their face, when they get access to funds or checks. So be careful with the knowledge of giving over all your information to other people. All right. So by law, this is why they protect you as the taxpayer, regardless of however much money you're getting back on your treasury. It says, or the taxpayer's legal designated representative. This is where I get to this point right here, because I always tell people that if you get to both sides, this is why you can update yourself in their system as this legal designated representative of yourself, because you have your trust. You have your revocable living trust. You can represent yourself now. You can do more things. And this is taking you from the individual side. It says anyone calling, look at that. Anyone calling about someone else's account should be prepared to verify their identity. Look at that. So yes, if you calling on somebody else's behalf, they're going to verify you too. All right. So we want to make sure everybody grasps this identity understanding, right? Let's say you want to go in and talk for your cousin. You want to go in and talk for your mom. You want to go in and talk for your spouse or whoever this is. They're gonna verify you. They're gonna verify you, and they're gonna verify the person you going in to talk. So I want to make sure this is very specific the way you're looking at this, because you're knowing that it's fully going to be done through the way they're saying they're going to do it. It says, and provide information about the person they are representing, including verbal or written authorization. Look at that, the verbal. That's why I said over the phone, this can happen if you do the verbal. Then you got your written, where you can walk it in and talk, and you can verbalize it, and you can give them documentations as well. We've even found that there's ways that they ask you over the phone. They may ask you to fax it to them, or you can upload it. They have an upload system now. Just for those who didn't know, Treasury has an upload system. All right, so I'm giving you all some back layer office information, because you got to learn how to do this, eventually yourself. Oh, let's go back. That's that PTIN. It says the ability to verify the taxpayer's name, SSN or ITIN, the tax period, and the tax forms filed. So that's all you have to do when you verify. That's all they want to make sure you do. And they will release everything, because that's all you're supposed to do. You got to verify the social security number. You have authorization over it. You got to verify the tax period you're dealing with things. And you need to verify the tax forms that you filed. Next, they have on these forms right here, one of these forms, which is current, completed, and signed. So that's right here. If you're doing this right here, they're also saying anyone calling about somebody else's return, they say you're doing about it. They want to see the 8822 tax information authorization. And then you have your form 2848 power of attorney and declaration of representative. Okay, so this is very important that you see these two forms that they're listing right here to verify. So you can do this in real time, just for those who understand how this looks. Let's say I did this in real time. I'm at the IRS. I'm on the phone. I'm filling the form out, right? So that's what they're expecting you to do. And they will, wait for you too. I'm not saying you got all day, but you got to make sure that you have it already ready to go, so that by the time they ask you for it, you like, okay, I already got my name, address, I got the periods filled in, let me blah, blah, blah. Let me go ahead and upload this and give it to them. That's what they're expecting you all to do. So that's the 8821, another form that it looks like they expect you to do on their website. Let me go back to that web page where it says, and you can look at the instructions for those who want to know more about it. Like I said, we don't want to get too all deep into it. Just fill out the form, just like they do when y'all tell y'all to go to the doctor's office. You just fill out the forms. That's what we're doing right now for the treasurer. So think of it just like the hospital. Think of it just like when you go to the bank. We just fill out the form at the bank, don't we? We don't overthink it. We just fill it out. That's why we want to make sure we don't overthink this information. Just fill it out. Make it easy. The next one is your 2848 power of attorney declaration of representative. You're declaring the representative. We talked about this before, how that's your power of attorney. You got to make sure the trust is bringing you into this knowledge of this information to declare this power, because this is a declaration of representative, and you got to make sure you something that you can back it up. So we're not able to go into the answers, what you're going to do on this form, but we're just showing you this is where it comes in, and you're turning this in to the Treasury. So it can be before, or it can be in the time they ask, right? So we want to make sure you see both answers, that it could be at the time they ask, or this can be something that you've done before.
Wallace, I want to ask just one question about that. On number 2, that's where you're gonna put the trust, the revocable trust name at on line 2, which says
Yes,
the
you can put the
revocable.
revocable name,
Right.
revocable trust here, the name and address right here. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
You
And
don't
your
have to have all this right here. You don't have to have the CAF number,
right.
PTIN. That's
Let's say,
optional.
say if you don't say if this is your first time doing this, you need a CAF number, but you're going to use your revocable living trust on number 2. Is that correct?
No, you don't need a CAF number. This is
Oh, you don't?
no, that's not necessary. CAF number is
Well, I see a lot of people getting CAF numbers. Why you
it's
get a
just
CAF?
it's an option. You can
Oh,
have it. It's just
okay.
a central, You does
Okay.
anybody know what it stands for? What does it stand for? You know?
Central, I know centralized something. I
Yeah,
saw how
we'll get
people. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I understand. I'm not saying don't get it. I'm just speaking of
Mm-hmm.
like it's not required to have a CAF number to fill that part out. Maybe
Okay.
they'll issue the CAF number if they choose
Mm-hmm.
to issue it after you fill it out too.
Okay.
So we don't
And
want, people to overthink it because they'll say, "Hey, do I have to have the CAF number first? Do I have to have the
and
CAF
on
number?"
line number one, that's where you put your cap's name, your name on one. That's the
No.
tax.
No, there's
No.
two ways you fill this out. That's why we have two
See.
2848s. In
Wow.
our course, we use two 2848s. We don't just use one. We use two. Like I say, I always tell you all there's the trust side and you have the business side, the
Okay.
individual side, or the sole prop, right?
Right. So we're
So
using the trust side of this on that 2848. Is that correct?
we're using both.
Oh, we using both. Oh,
You
okay.
see? So like I say,
Okay.
I mean, we want to make sure that everyone
Okay.
is able to do this in real time, but we do have strategies just for sake of time. We're not able to
Okay.
go into all the
Right.
details because we know that, it can bog one down of what to
Mm-hmm.
do next, right? Because look, this is something they just came out with in 2022. This
Mm.
is the new thing they're going to do to verify or identify you.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So I wanted to go right into this before calling the IRS. People should know what info they'll need to verify their what? Identity. So you'll have to do this. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
you do it in real time in person.
Right.
As we know, you'll need the ID or the
Mm-hmm.
passport ID, right? You can use the passport ID if you go and verify. It just depends on how you're going to do it. We have the new passport IDs that people are using. So if you want to get out of the system too, this is another layer
Mm-hmm.
where you can use the passport ID.
Mm.
Some of those who wanted to understand how to deal with that
Right.
say alternative to your state ID. Most people don't know about it, but they do exist. The passport ID is something that looks similar like this right here, like this guy right here.
Right.
All
Mm-hmm.
right, so these are layers of understanding. Like you see, he got the 5 star. They talk about the 5 star and all these things, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll get into those things as we go. For some
Okay.
ways that one is able to identify or
Okay.
verify their identity. Any
Okay.
comments or questions or shares on this part? Anybody may be in the chat want to talk about it. All right. So as we understand, we have went through the layers of getting ready to talk to the Treasury. As I say, these are physical and mental things that you must do. The physical parts are those actual physical documents. As we understand, most of us may have those. That's fine. But now you have your mental. You got your mental documents, which is you being able to explain it and give the right information at the time that it's asked. So that is part of the mental. I'm quite sure we all will be able to pass this with flying colors, but I do understand some of us may be missing some of these things. So let's say you're against the state ID or using the ID, you may be able to go in through with this United States of America passport card. So that's why we put this on the screen to kind of give people this last layer of communication. This is a good thing to use also for authorities. Let's say you're giving the police or the authorities identification. This seems to actually deflect them more when you have this type of card rather than having the state ID. We finding more of a better experience by having a U.S. passport card. They end up, not worrying about or messing with you too much than if you have the state ID. Because it's as if they feel as if they have the jurisdiction in some form. I guess that's, and it also doesn't say an address on it. It's another thing that the United States passport card doesn't have is an address. So if anybody's new to this, we wanted to kind of share this as a layer to certain things that you all can do to identify, just for those who are new to the knowledge. And I yield for now. All right, I think that's it. That closes us out. We got our last parts right now for comments, questions, or shares. You all can ask questions about what we're going to be doing next week, but I think that was a good part to show what you're going to end up doing when you get ready to talk to the IRS or the Treasury. Now, some of us may have the trust that's on the county record, so I like to say that's a easier thing. Let's say you don't have the trust. That's why we tell people sometimes put it on the county record. You can tell the Treasury or the IRS to look it up on the book and page number. So we've had success when I was able to talk to the IRS or even give them information about talking about the trust. I was able to use the book and page number. So these are other strategies you can do to feel comfortable. If you're new to this knowledge, if you have the trust instrument, this is something that we want to make sure you have today. If you didn't do this, you have to go through our course in some form. We'll walk you through how to do all that. There is a fee associated with that, but we're able to work out payment plans or work with you the best way we can just to make sure that you're able to get through all these financial layers of your life. Because all of us at some point have to deal with the money and the credits that they're going to give us. And we got to be able to utilize these credits and utilize these funds to pay these things off, because we don't want to keep coming in there saying we don't have the funds, we don't have the money. And that's how they keep getting us. So outside of that, that helps. I hope that helps with certain things. I'm going to go ahead and show an example of a trust instrument and close out for comments, questions. And then if not, we'll come back next week and we'll talk about more layers of the trust, how the trust works, how the revocable living trust is something that's living. And it does take you under that new covenant that we talked about, which the biblical principles we were able to bring in, how you now have a new agreement and how this agreement is taking you from under their corporation, this corporation that they have in place, this operations, this federal code and all these things. This takes you from under that federal code. Now, do you come out overnight? No. This is going to take time. This is a work in progress. This is a work in progress. This is you working on your trust. So you have to work on yourself. It's not going to work just like that. This isn't magic, right? We're not able to give you a quick fix, but this is going to fix everything as you begin to work it and continually move everything out of your name into your trust. So that's what I had to do. As you can see, this is part of the trust. It says everything will be conveyed or has been conveyed to the trust. When we say the trust is the name of the trust that you create, some of us may have our names there as the trust name. That's fine, but you have to make sure you put after your name, Revocable Living Trust. If you don't have that same name, like I don't have my same name here, I use a new name and I used a fictitious name if one wants to say that as well. And that is the name that I'm using for my Revocable Living Trust. So that is what I mean by taking it out of your name, meaning that even if you have a car, you want to take it out of your name. So you want to convey the car to the trust. So that's right here. That's the correct word I'm going to start using for you all when you say the trust. I'm going to say you're going to assign, as you see the UCC. This is the word that the UCC uses, assignees. So you're going to assign things over to the trust. The other word that they use with the courthouse, they like to say convey. So learn these court terms and learn their financial terms that they like to use. You're going to assign and convey property to the living trust. And everything that's in your name has to be conveyed or assigned to the living trust. So for instance, my name, everything that's in this name that's on my social security card has to be conveyed over to my Revocable Living Trust. As grantor, has or will assign. That means that I already did or I'm about to do it once I find out. Has or will assign, convey, and deliver all of the rights, title, and interest in the property as described in Schedule A of this document as a gift and without consideration to be held by this living trust. It's very interesting how this one line brings all your property in your name over to the trust. But I just bring this up to say it's written, but you still have to think of it. You have to still bring it out and still explain it, we'll say. So that's what I did. I just explained it to you and making it make sense to me and making it make sense to even if I had to explain this to the Treasury. So they say the IRS agent asked me some questions. I'm going to just talk about my trust. I'm not going to bring up any information that's not in my trust. just to kind of give some ideas of how it looks to me. You know, so if they ask me questions about, you know, beneficiaries or like taxes, and let me go scroll to my tax section. You see where my tax section at? Look at this right here. So they say if they ask me about my trust and my name, I'm going to show that my the tax purposes, this revocable living trust would be identified by the employer identification number during the lifetime of the grantor, along with the social security number, if necessary to identify the grantor. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to just use this section in my trust and talk to the Treasury. This little small little area of taxes right here, just one little small area. It's like 15% of my trust, probably less than that, is the IRS. So I just want to bring this how small the IRS is to us. Once you have a revocable living trust, you should be easily able to talk to the Treasury, easily able to talk to the IRS, and they should help you the way that you need them to help. So that's all I have for this week. And I thank you all for coming in. If any have any last closing statements, closing shares, feel free. You all can get on the mic, and then I'll be closing us out.
I just want to thank you for this class. It's very uplifting, very rewarding, and I learned more of things than what I did before. And I see with me, some all this stuff. I ain't about the revocable living trust back then, because I didn't know what other stuff had to go with it, and how you have to really have everything with other documents and stuff. And I thank you for this class, and I thank you for teaching us this, Wallace. And I'll be back. And thank you. Great class.
Yes, indeed. I definitely want to say I appreciate you for everything, you know, you're doing for
Yes.
us and all of that, man. I want to just say, because at the end of the day, you know, you're talking about calling up the IRS and things, you know, when we're talking to them, are we able to say, okay, so I've got my EINs laid out in front of me. Can I go over my framework with you? Like, do they help you like that, or is it like you gotta come with like your own direction? Like, say, okay, this entity is doing, or because at the end of the day, you know, I really do want to make sure that I'm doing this appropriately. But if we go to them and ask these questions, like, okay, so if I have this EIN that's registered like this, or if I have this one and will they give us any advice or pointers or direction if we do give them intention, like say this is what I want to do? Will they help us like form the proper framework to
Yeah, another
operate
knowledge.
appropriately?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have any question you can ask. I mean, there's nothing stopping us from talking to them. You gotta find out once you get there.
Understood. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'll be in touch with you this week to try to get a one-on-one.
No problem, no problem. We all want to make everybody feel that you have the confidence to talk to the government, because this is the government. It's your financial account, you know. So this is something that we all got to do. Even if we put it on the back
Can
burner,
I
it's still
ask
going
a
to be there.
question?
Oh, who
Can
is
I
that?
ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead. We got somebody with a question. Go ahead.
Um, I just got a trust book that's called, Run Your Trust Like a Pro. And I found out in the book that when you open a trust account at the bank for a revocable living trust, you got to use your social security number. Is that true?
Yes, it is something that makes your social still bring in, but it's really supposed to just be your EIN. So you really don't want to use your social for the revocable
That's what
living
I
trust.
that's what I thought, but the book says otherwise.
Right. Remember, you're getting the knowledge from the corporation side. So they're going to create a corporate trust. So most of the books that are created are going to give the corporate trust knowledge, because that's their job. The job is to keep you on the corporation side. That is,
Well,
you know,
when you filed for your EIN, your trust EIN on the IRS website, you had to use your social anyways.
correct. But that's why you shouldn't have to use your
So
social again. So you just use the EIN, right?
right, I
So
got
why,
you.
yeah. So why use my social if I can just use the EIN?
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, so I hope that helps with some of those. I think somebody mentioned something last. Bank account can be set up without a SSN. Correct. Yes, it can. And, you just want to use the trust EIN to set up the bank account. There's ways to do it. All right, so I hope this helps. If anybody want to contact us, go to universitytechnicians.com. You can go to book online if you want to book a session with us. You can go to talk here if you want to ask questions. We do free consultations before you pay. We don't want you to pay for anything without understanding what you're going to pay for. So be sure to understand how to do services that are going to get you what you want to get, right? You don't want to do something that you don't know what you're getting. So let's just always focus on that. And we'll be in touch. If you need payment plans, you can go to plans. You can go join our programs. We're going to be giving out certificates by the end of this year. Those who have completed the whole year with active status with the trust studies, they will receive a certificate of completion for certification. So those who are already members, make sure you log into your account so that you can get your certification. Especially if you're passing these courses, this is a real deal certification that's authorized by the government. So we actually have got access to be able to do that. So when you join our programs and you finish this, you actually get a certificate of completion. Just want to bring that out there. We do have access to things that do work. And if those want to get started with different things that you want to do to start training or start selling services, this is one of the things that we gave out to certain people who have passed certain courses. You will receive certificate of completion and you receive that through University Technicians. But thank you all for going through our programs and listening in for this week. I'll be in connection with you next week. If anything else, we'll talk about more of the banking system as much as possible to show how you can come out of that. And we'll also talk about the Treasury in more detail next week too. Thank you. Have a good week.
Thank you, Wallace. Nightfall, everybody. Be safe out there.